So today we're at Wave. Sheldon, how we doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good, mate. How are you?
Good. Not so bad.
Good.
Nice crisp morning today, isn't it?
It is nice and fresh outside, yeah. The best kind of mornings, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you're driving to work and sunsets, sunrise is coming up.
Yeah.
Nice and yellow. Best way.
So, have you got many people in today? How many pickups you got?
So I've got a guy coming in at 10. He's coming to look at a Volkswagen T-Roc. So just get that's ready to go, really. So he's going to have a drive in that, see if he likes it. Apart from that, pretty dead today. Nothing else on. Just got a few little admin tasks that need to be done, bit of accounts, and then me and Callum's got a bit of a meeting just in regards to growing the business and business development today, really. So yeah.
So as well, it's more admin.
More admin, yeah. Rather than people like actually collecting cars or picking cars up or looking at cars. It's more like how can we grow the business further and what can we do to grow it in terms of marketing, accounts, cash flow, finances. We've got quite a lot of things that need to be done today, so that's what we're currently on with. So more growing the business rather than working on the business rather than working in the business.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well, so that brings me to my first question then. So what made you and Callum want to be car salesmen in the first place? Like, what motivates you to make a sale?
So for the first question, and so I got into car sales when I was like 17, so I'm now 27, so like 10 years. And how I got into it is I was working at a telesales job. So I was earning about £1,300 a month there. And I worked there for about 6 months. And Callum were actually working at Ford in Burnley with my other mate, Dan. So they were earning good money. They were earning £3-4 grand a month after tax. And I was like, I want a bit of that. Like, I earn £1,300. I'm like, how can you be earning double, if not triple what I'm earning? Not only that, have a company car and also get the car paid for, tax paid for, everything paid for. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, I want more out of it. So that's when I started thinking, right, let's apply. So I ended up applying for a job at Citroen. So my first ever job was selling cars at the Citroen. So I started working there, and it was pretty good, to be fair. The interview process was like 30 people. So you had to go into, first of all, you had like an interview, and then you had to do certain tasks like, what motivates you? What's your ambitions? Where do you want to be? What do you see in the company? Loads of different stuff. What do you know about the company? And in front of like six people. So altogether, the 30 people that applied for it, and there were I think there were 5 jobs in total, and there were like 6 people up front watching you do a presentation. So I was one of the 5 people that got the job. So I worked at Citroen in Nelson, worked there for a year. And at the time when I did work there, I ended up breaking my foot. So I went to Amsterdam, ended up breaking my foot. And I came back and I realised, actually, I don't want to carry on selling cars face-to-face at the time. I was only like 18. I had a company car and stuff, a pretty good job, earning decent money. So then I moved to Jaguar in Preston. So I applied for a job there, ended up getting the job. Worked at Jaguar in Preston, all over the phone, just doing phone sales. So the first one were at Citroen were face-to-face and phone. Then I moved to Jaguar, that's more over the phone. And then from Jaguar, I moved to Nissan in Burnley, worked there for 3 years. Again, decent wage, got a company car, fuel card, everything paid for. Pretty decent, to be fair, good job.
Yeah.
Everyone was a good laugh as well. They were decent. They're only not that far from my house. Pretty easy, 5 days a week as well. Every other weekend I had off, so it was a pretty good job. And then moved from there to Hippo Motor Group. So in terms of how I got into it was just more towards the money, really. It was like Callum and Dan were making good money. I earned a third of what they were earning and working the same hours and didn't have a company car. And I had to pay for my car as well. So I was even worse off than what they were.
Yeah.
So that's how I got into it. But in terms of what motivates me, one of the biggest things is money. That's probably the biggest motivator for me. At the time, it was like having a company car as well, because they were getting company cars and I think they had a fuel card as well. They got the fuel paid for, tax paid for, insurance and a car, and it just came out of the wage. So it's like, how are they getting that and I'm not? So that's when I started getting into it and thinking, I do want better in terms of I want to be paid more and I want a free car. That's why I got into it, really. So I didn't really thought of it as a career. I didn't think I'd be owning my own dealership at some stage. I didn't think any of that. It was just more towards the fact of I'll go earning good money, get a free car out of it and see how I get on and where it takes me.
Yeah, good. So next question is, how do you manage the entire sales process, and more so, how do you handle a customer who's hesitant to buy? Yeah,
so in terms of, going back to your first question, so in terms of the sales process, me and Callum's put quite a lot from having our jobs and working at Nissan, Citroen, Hippo. We've put together quite quite a few different policies and procedures in place, really. And it's like learning little bits of skills. So skills from Nissan that were face to face and going on training courses, skills for over the phone skills as well, getting customers down. And it's, even though sales is it's an art really, in terms of it's more like being really chilled out and trying to not be salesy. So that's what we've tried to develop here. So there's no in the showroom, and when we start to grow, there's not going to be any desks there. There's not going to be on computers there. It's just going to be very modern, very chilled, very relaxed. The customer basically tells me I want to go ahead with the car, not me asking the customer, are you happy to go ahead with it, in a way. And it's just more making it a lot more friendly as an environment, really. Just a little with ease to buy a car where you're not thinking, friggin' I feel pressured into buying it. I don't want anyone going away thinking, I actually got pressured into buying that car. Do you know what I mean? It's more like they made the choice, not me directing me.
No, I'm with you on that.
I mean, so yeah, that's where I'm currently at with that.
So obviously you and Callum run Wave, the car business. So you've practically explained where you learned your craft.
Yeah.
So you've obviously got experience in that field.
Yeah.
Before setting up Wave.
Yeah, we did. So quite a bit of experience. So like, been doing it for like 10 years in total. Like I said, I was 17 when I got into it, and like now 27, turning 28 in a couple of months. So it's been like 10 years, sorry. So most of the training really came from all the jobs. So when I first started at Citroen, just learning how to sell cars and how to sell, really. Because I got into, when I was 17, when I worked at the telly, it was called Time Technology Park, or Time Talk. I learned a little bit of skills there in terms of how to sell over the phone. And then that moved on to how to sell over the phone with cars. Then I had to learn how to sell face to face. And then from there, again, went to Jaguar, learned how to sell over the phone through CarWow and different customers coming on. And then going to Nissan, which were like all face to face and on the phone and on email. So it's just learning different little bits and getting different skills along the way. And every time I moved job for a pay increase and to learn more. So when I was at Citroen, I earned decent money, I had a company car, but I learned how to sell cars then. Then I learned how to sell cars at Jaguar over the phone. Then at Nissan, it was like, right, I'm selling cars over the phone and also selling cars on email and face-to-face. And then from there, went to move to Hippo, worked there for like 3 years and learned how to sell predominantly over the phone. So I got a lot of rejections, also a lot of like people saying no, also people just like umming and ahhing. And then you have to think, right, I'm taking down that route. How am I going to convince this customer to buy? Because they're not seeing you. So you have to make them trust you without seeing you, which is pretty difficult to do.
I'm with you.
So that's where I've just learned all the stuff from, really. And it's an amalgamation of everything. So Callum, his side of the business is marketing, warranties, growing the business, and a few like logistics, that's one of the main things, buying cars. Whereas mine is sales, accounts, and admin. So it's just like, from learning sales, it's come from the last 10 years of dealing with customers, getting rejected, learning objections, and just face-to-face emails as well as over the phone. That's where it's all come from, really, and just bringing everything together. And then to start this business, we had to learn accounts. I did nothing in accounts.
Yeah.
I did accounts at A-level, to be fair. So when I went Thomas Waite sixth form, ended up getting an accounts A-level. And that translated into this business, which were pretty good. I did want to become an accountant at some stage, but obviously I just completely veered off to a different route. So then when it comes to us doing the accounts, it makes it a lot easier. I got a couple of books on there as well, got a couple of books on sales, and just grew really. And obviously the more that you're doing something, the better you get at it as well.
Yeah.
So it's just facing the rejection, facing the no's, facing the objections, just overcoming it. Then writing the objection down. Say someone says, about a car, whatever it is, you write the objection down. So if you ever get that again, you know how to overcome it, really.
Yeah. So I understand that you and Callum, you went to school together, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yes. At school, was it something, setting up a business together? Was it in the Parkland when you were younger?
No, not at all. No, it's never been. It's never been for the last 3 years. Right. So when I was in school, I was never thinking, I've always wanted to earn money, and I've always wanted to be not necessarily rich, but have a lot of money or be able to do what I want when I want, really. But it was never like, we're going to set up a business and this is what we're going to do. It's more towards the fact of, I didn't know where the path were. When I was 17, 18, I didn't have a clue that I'm going to be owning the business or running the business with my best mate. Do you know what I mean? It was nothing like that. But then as it grew and as we got better, as I grew through the jobs and just learned everything along the way. When I was at Hippo, I learned how to sell over the phone, face rejections, fell face to face as well, but not that much. Then learn admin because we had to do all our admin as well. So that made it, obviously learning admin is pretty easy, but you're just making sure you've got all these little skills here and there that you bring them all together, which helps you sort that business. So it's more like the yin and yang for me and Cal. Me and Cal are absolute opposites.
Yeah.
But it's good that we work together because if we were both the same person, the business would not succeed. If there had two Callums, would not succeed. Two of me would not succeed at all because we're absolute opposites. But in terms of, it was never a thing. When I was in school, I think it only last 5 years, really, when we started making it a side hustle and we started buying and selling cars. I don't know if there's another question for you, but I can let you know how we started unless you've already got that as a question. But yeah, basically, me and Callum started buying and selling cars off our drive. So Callum had an auction account through Auction for Cars, which is Motorpoint. So when Motorpoint cars come through, if they're less than 3 years and a certain mileage, it goes to the auction. So Callum were like, oh, we've got this auction account. Do you want to buy it? Do you want to buy some cars? So this was probably 2 years prior before we actually fully started. And how this worked is we bought a car, a Fiat Punto. We left it on Callum's granddad's drive, left it there for ages. The battery died. There was so much stuff wrong with it. We only bought it for like 600 quid. And I think we actually lost £300 on the actual first ever car we ever bought. So we sacked it off. We said, right, we're going to leave this. So we ended up buying a trailer for like 600 quid. This was at the same time we bought that Fiat Punto. So we bought the trailer, bought the Fiat Punto, goes to the place, puts the Fiat Punto on the back of the lorry. Callum's granddad picked it up. And we drove to Callum's granddad's house, left it there, weren't selling, we ended up losing money. So we thought, sack this, we're just going to get rid of the trailer. So we got rid of the trailer, sold the Fiat Punto, made a little bit of money on the trailer, lost money on the Punto. So we're like, this isn't working, we'll leave it. So just left it. And then we came back together like a couple of years later. I think, how old were we? It must have been like 20, 21, something like that. Kind of like, right, we're gonna let's try this again. Let's buy a car. So we ended up buying a Toyota RAV4 for like 642 quid it were. We ended up selling for like 900 quid. So we made 300 quid. We're only 150 quid each. You won't really get out of bed for that. For the amount of time you have to go and pick it up, clean it, valet it, put it, advertise it. Do you know what I mean? It's a lot of effort for minimal amount of money. But that's what you have to do at the start. So we bought it and carried on flipping cars off our drive, Callum's drive, my drive. And we did that for like 2 years. And I think we got to about £20,000 in terms of the savings that we had just from buying and selling cars. So then we thought, right, why don't we make a business out of it? So we got that. So we got a business account. We got a premises. So Callum's Aunt Lane, she lent us premises. And all it were is like a bit of a, like not necessarily a shed, but it was more like an office that were very, very small. It weren't big at all. We had like a desk in there, a laptop in there, a few little bits. And we basically had a little, I don't even know how you'd explain it, but it's more like 2 parking spaces. And me and Callum ended up spending £1,000 on these gates so no one could get in. So just like a fence all the way around, gates at front, 2 cars in there. And we started buying and selling cars. So with the money that we had, we did it all up, made it look right. And then what we did after that is once we had that money, we got VAT registered, got FCA regulated, got ICO regulated, and then started to get the finance companies on board. And so Callum had a full-time job at this stage. So Callum was like, right, if we want to make a do out of it, someone's going to have to give because I'm going to have to spend 4 or 5 months doing this website. Because we're looking at websites and like 5 to 10 to 15 grand. And we're like, we could put all that money into a website, but what's the point when we ain't got any money to buy any stock? So we're like, right, we need to buy some more cars. So we ended up buying like a couple of cars, started selling them through the business then. And it carried on going and started making a bit more money. And then COVID hit. So we're like, oh my God, COVID's hit. I remember this customer bought this Mitsubishi Shogun, and it was the day that we knew that we were going into lockdown. So it was 5 o'clock, and we didn't want to lose the deal because we were like, oh, there's good money in this, and we want the money back to get another car. So we're like, right, let's drive down to London. So we drove down at like 5 o'clock, set off about 6 o'clock, I think. We ended up getting to London at like, I think it was like 1 o'clock in the morning or something. It was pretty late. Handed over the keys to this car. The guy, I'm like, I'm sorry, mate. Obviously knew the situation because it was COVID. And he was like, don't worry about it. Showed him the car, they're driving it, well happy with it. And then we drove back, me and Callum. We didn't get back like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Went to bed, obviously, and we carried on. But through COVID, instead of paying Elaine, which was Callum's auntie, £400 a month for this little unit, we just did odd jobs. So we painted the business centre. We did some gardening for her, took some trees out. We did loads of different stuff where we didn't have to necessarily take a wage out of it. So Callum weren't, I think Callum, where were he? I think he was working for his auntie at the time as well, and I was then working doing my job. So we didn't have to ever take a wage. So it's everything that we made, we just put back in. Even the overheads, all you have to pay is pay the accountant with nothing. Didn't take a wage, no rent because we were doing our jobs here and there. So we're good that we got through the COVID stage. And then it came to it, and we're like, right, Callum put his name down for one of these units, like a smaller one, about a third of the size of this. Put our name down for it, and Callum were like, right, we've got this. We've been offered it. This was like 6 months prior, so it took about 6 months to get one of these. And then once we got one, we had a look at it, and I can send you some photos, and you could see it, and it was just like stuff everywhere. We're like, how are we going to change this to make it look good? So we got some paint, obviously painted it. We're just painting it every night after work. And then Callum said, right, we need to go full time with this. So I think Callum then went full time, paid himself 805 quid a month, absolutely nothing. And I was still working. So as he's doing that, he's doing deals, we're selling cars. And then we thought, right, let's get an Instagram and let's start putting pictures of cars online. So the cars that we're selling. And then we're also doing like necessarily a drop shipping method or car sourcing in a way where we were having cars, putting them on our website. People then have a look at it, say, I want this particular car, and we'd go out and find it. So that's how we started like 4 years ago. So this one customer came, picked the car up, Audi A5, took a picture next to his car, bottle of champagne. And we thought, how can we be better than most dealers? So what can we do? We've got a reveal sheet, we've got champagne, we've got flowers, we've got balloons, we've got the service afterwards. If you've got a problem, you've also got like a courtesy car that you bring in. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot behind it. Then creating that experience around it, make it easier. I go and find the car, I do it, everything. I do the condition report, did everything. And we're like, right, let's better every other dealer and then we'll see what we can do. So we started putting pictures on Instagram, sold a few cars to our mates, sold a few cars to you, do you know what I mean? Lots of different people. And then it started to take off and more people. And then we do a referral scheme. So if you refer somebody and they do buy a car, every time you refer somebody, we give you 200 quid. So that started to take off more. And we were in there for, I think, about 2 years. We just kept reinvesting, making it look better, putting a wall up, and doing the systems. Systems are a massive thing when it comes to business. Because you haven't got systems in place, it makes everything miles harder. You just trying to think off the top of your head. Whereas if there's a system, you know how you do everything every single time the same way. So we did that, got all the systems in place. And then at the start, so about a year ago, we had the chance to move into one of these bigger units. And we started to outgrow that unit because the amount of cars that we were selling, you only have 2 cars inside and 2 outside. So sometimes you have cars across the road and cars at the back. And then from that last unit, we end up, like I said, just outgrowing it. And then from there, we end up putting our name down for one of these. But when we put our name down for one of these, it was like 3 times as big as the previous unit. And we're nervous because we're like, right, we've got a lot to spend on the interior to get it looking right, loads on the exterior. We didn't have loads of money to buy loads of cars with as well. So we're like, right, what we're going to do? So like, we'll grow into it. So we end up coming in. Me and Callum end up spending 6 weeks on doing the full place up, painting all under here. Obviously, the full floor is completely gutting it all around the sides, painting, you name it. Everything here has been painted or cleaned down or washed or just because the last guy who had it, he basically built machines, so there was dust everywhere. So when we came in, we had to get rid of all the stuff that were in here and also make it look clean, make it look fresh. And that's where Callum came in and said, right, what about greys, whites, and like dark grey? We had like a bit of a nightmare at some stage. There was loads of stuff that went on anyway. But yeah, it took about 6 weeks to do it. And then from 6 weeks, we ended up still selling cars the normal way. We ended up getting some kind of funding to obviously progress, and then that's when we started getting all the stock cars. And now, yeah, that's it. We've got 20 cars here right now, and then we just carry on snowballing really, which is exciting. We didn't think we'd ever be in this sort of position of where we are. We end up employing Jake, which is Callum's brother, to do all the valeting, picking cars up, cleaning cars, doing all that, making sure the showroom's all nice and clean. And from like being 17, when you go back to that question saying, do you ever think you were going to do a business? And we're like, no, never thought we'd be in this position where I am now. And we're only just starting. We're only very small to where we want to be. But it just feels like sometimes you like have to pinch yourself thinking, frigging hell, like we're actually doing very, very well with it. And it is coming up, but it's a lot of effort. Like you don't see all the things. Callum took 805 quid as a wage for about a year. And then after that, it went up to 1,048 quid. It's like living off 1,048 quid a month and still having everything else to pay for, your fuel, your house, everything whatever your full outgoings are, you still have to pay for everything. It's pretty hard. And then not going on holidays, I had to sacrifice holidays, I end up selling my Golf R because obviously the payments on that were pretty expensive, so you couldn't start a business and do that. There were quite a lot of sacrifices that people don't see. Waking up early in the morning, finishing 12, 1 o'clock. When we're doing this, we're literally working from 8 o'clock in the morning till 12 at night for quite a while, like roughly about 6 weeks. So pretty big. We could have got someone in to do it, to be fair, but it would have cost quite a lot. We didn't have massive amounts of money to spend on doing everything up, because we all had the upstairs, we had outside to do as well. And then we still had to buy cars. So it's like cash flow and juggling everything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So obviously you explained how you started and how things are going.
Yeah.
So now you have got your own business.
Yeah.
What's been the biggest learning curve so far?
We've had quite a lot, to be fair. Biggest thing for learning is more down to, because me and Callum have different jobs, it's learning that. First of all, Callum's job is buying. That's one of the biggest things. So we've learned a lot this year just in buying, in terms of when we first started doing this a year ago, when we got the stock cars, we bought normal generic cars as a white Fiesta, a black Fiesta, a black Vauxhall Corsa. But the problem you've got there is you've got Evans Oshaw, you've got your Cinch, you've got your Kazoo. They're all having these cars, so you're competing against them. And obviously, our credibility, not necessarily as big as them, but it's more towards the fact of, as soon as you see them, they're online, I'll go to Cinch to buy that car. So it makes it difficult for us to sell them. Not only that, they might be in stock for 60 to 90 days. So after 90 days, they start losing you money. So we're more towards the fact is that we have to change the buying strategy. What do we need to do to try and buy cars? Right, we need unique cars. We need stuff that's not been auto traded for that long. We need other certain elements I'm not going to go into, but I don't want everyone else seeing how we do it. But in terms of that, it's more towards, we're trying to find cars now that sell within 30 days. That's the criteria. If Callum doesn't love it, doesn't fall in love with it, or doesn't think it can sell within that time, just don't buy it. Because we can handpick cars, because we've only got a certain amount of cars that we have to pick. We can handpick them to make sure that they do sell within 30 days, or be the best chance for them to sell. So probably the biggest learning curve is the buying process, how we're going to buy cars and how we're going to stay relevant to keeping up with the trends or the type of cars that people are wanting to buy over the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah. So, bit of a fun question. So, between you and Callum, who would you say is most patient with customers? Who's trying to
me, all day. Yeah, Callum will say that as well. I'm 100% most patient when it comes to customers. Callum, to be fair, that's why we've all get our set jobs now. So like Jake, his job is picking cars up, showroom manager, making sure the showroom's all nice and clean and everything. And also in terms of valeting cars, prepping cars, making sure all the cars are ready. And then Callum's job is nothing to do with looking at sales, which is good. So my job's sales. So when customers come in, I just deal with the sales side of stuff. So Callum doesn't actually deal with any sort of sales stuff. But when it actually comes to it, I'm 100% more patient than Callum. Yeah, definitely.
So I've always wondered myself, to be fair, the name Wave, where did
Wave come from? Yeah, we actually got a customer came to pick up a car yesterday, and she said the same. We've never been asked this question before, and she asked me. Then her mum and dad asked me, and you're just asking me now, and no one's ever really asked us that. Do you know what I mean? So, so basically, Callum and Tyler, Callum's missus or wife, they end up travelling to Australia. So they travelled to Australia for about a year. And when Callum were at his happiest or his most content were when he were led in Australia, sat on the beach, listening to waves. So when me and Callum were trying to come up with a name, we were looking at loads of different stuff like Voyage and loads of mental names. And all we wanted is just one name. So like you look at Tesco, Texaco, Asda, all these things, they've just got one name. So that's why we're like, right, want something like that. So then we started loads of branching out, different ideas, looking at stuff all the time on our phones, different names. And then it came to it, and Callum was like, I want it to be called Wave. And at first I was like, not really keen on that. It don't really do it for me. And it don't really stand out. And then we were like, right, if you create the branding around everything, so you look at the colours, you look at the name, you look at all the slogan, everything that goes around it, it actually could work. So it's like, when you think of Tesco, what do you think of? You don't think about the name, you don't dig deep into it. Same with Asda, any big brand or any Apple's for phones. And it's like, how can an apple be formed when you eat it? Do you know what I mean? It's like completely different. So we're like Wave, people think like waving, or people think of the sea. It's like whatever people want to interpret it, they can do. But Callum, when he's happiest and he's most content, when he's on the beach in Australia, we both came to the decision, let's call it Wave, providing that we got the branding around it and we get some decent branding and good colours. We end up spending, I think, 1,000 or 1,500 quid on this guy to come up with a brand, come up with a name, not necessarily a name, sorry, we told him the name, but he basically came up with the colours. He looked at Kazoo, Cinch, all these big ones, and said, right, these are the colours that they're using. You need to use something like this. And then also he came up with like the W, so they changed it from a normal W to where it is now. Give us 4 or 5 different variants of it, and thought, right, we're going to pick that one. Changed a few little bits, and then we end up paying them the money, and obviously getting the Wave as it is. So that's why you got Wave as the brand. You got Wave Car Finance, Wave Motor Group, potentially Wave Logistics. There's loads of different Wave houses. Do you know what I mean? There's so much stuff that it could be. But that's where it came from. Basically, Callum, this being content on the beach.
Oh. So, Shell, if you could just look into this camera here and then let the people know what socials they can follow you on and where to find you.
Yeah, of course. So you can find us on Google and type in Wave Motor Group or wavemotorgroup.co.uk, and that's for stock cars. And you've also got wavecarfinance.co.uk. That's for if you've got a car that's currently not in stock, have a look on there, you can make an inquiry. In terms of the socials, we've got Facebook and Instagram. Facebook is Wave Car Finance, and Instagram is at Wave Car Finance on there. I've also got my personal as well, which is Sheldon.waves. Thank you.